Hi, I'm Cynthia Schiller. Please like and subscribe where we help and heal one day at a time. We're going to talk about why do we love our abusers and why is it so hard to leave? One of the key reasons is sometimes the love came before the abuse. And we kind of felt that during that love bombing stage. And so now all of a sudden we're in this whole new situation. The abuse is starting to unfold. And it often people will just ask us, why don't you just leave? But sometimes it doesn't seem quite as straightforward. We've already had strong feelings. There's chemistry between us. Sometimes we start wondering, what if this person changes? What if it's my fault? And what exactly is love all about? We start to even question what love is. Is this normal? And it's not uncommon to feel that way. In the United States alone, 10 million adults every year experience abuse by their intimate or romantic partners. And it's not our fault. And that's important to know. It can happen to anyone. There's not something crazy about you that you should be enduring this. It's who you ended up with. The fault and the failure just comes from the maltreatment. So it's possible to step away, even though we have these feelings, but sometimes we're like traumatized, and we've already been going through so much trying to figure out how to work through these relationships, that it's kind of like a pattern that we're used to, and scared breaking free from patterns just because that becomes the comfort. So different kinds of violence that you might have is anything from stalking, threatening, sexually violent, being physical, hitting, punching, humiliation. And there's a lot of different kind of controlling behaviors that they can do. Narcissists are tricky in how they do it, but they almost always get their way. They set it up that way. They'll also sometimes try to have the financial control over the situation, kind of trapping you. And there's a lot of physical violence that goes on. And just be aware that setting boundaries is something that's really important to do. And it's kind of sad, but it's not uncommon for people to fall in love with somebody who becomes abusive. Usually if you see it in the beginning, hopefully you don't continue on with that. But we've already developed these connections. We feel the chemistry between our ex-narcissist, and sometimes just because we love someone, is it healthy for us? So we might start wondering what it'd be like just to be alone. We start getting scared about that, what the next steps are. If we leave, are we gonna get revenge from our partner? So we start getting scared to leave sometimes. Some of us don't have the money. Also, if we have children, we start trying to justify, should we stay for the children? But you got to remember, if you're staying for the children need a healthy environment, because a lot of times that's when you might start to overcompensate and you're already with the narcissist. That's how the grandiose narcissists are created. So you don't want to be a detriment to your kids when you're trying to protect them. So you really got to think that through. Some of our cultural or religious beliefs or expectations from family members can kind of start putting some pressure on us, and making it harder to leave. And sometimes we go through these denials, which keeps us in these relationships. We don't want to face the fact. So our defenses are kicking in. And, sometimes we can become codependent. We're confused on what exactly is going on. These manipulation things that the narcissist is doing it isn't making sense to us. And you're still trying to find answers. That's why you're searching YouTube or Google or talking to your friends. Just make sure when you talk to your friends that they understand, they've been through what you've been through. Otherwise, they're just not going to comprehend, because you've been through it and you're still trying to comprehend. So as an outsider, it makes it even harder for them to relate to you. So just make sure you're getting the right kind of help. We start going through this cognitive dissonance where we try to justify things. It's two opposite statements, and we're trying to make sense of it, and we'll often minimize things. It, you know, like he lies all the time, but he I don't know, takes care of the kids. And so you're like, it's more comforting knowing the good. So we kind of minimize the bad and kind of bump up the good. And that kind of sometimes changes how we react, whether we leave or not. And sometimes we think that we can change our person, but we got to remember that we can, like they say, lead a horse to water, but we can't make them drink. So they also have everything going on to where I keep talking about the smaller brain. It shrunk, it's thinner, just brain activity levels. That's something that even doctors can't change. There's no medication for narcissists unless they are using medication for comorbidities such as OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. So the trauma bond is what we've gone through. That's also known as the Stockholm syndrome. And that just happens because we become reliant on our partner. We become so needy that the breadcrumbs that they give us keeps us trapped inside. So you know, what you feel, it is valid. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means, you know, you've been through abuse, and that's the outcome of the abuse. And the longer you stay in, the harder it is, or the longer you stay in, the more damage that is being done. So if you're going through denial, that's normal. That's one of the stages of grief, because you are kind of grieving the loss of the love bombing stage. It's just a survival response to the pain. So even if it's not something that we can see, it definitely is something that affects us. And denial can manifest in different ways. We sometimes think this could never happen to us, and then we try to, like, I don't know, explain it away in a different way, as opposed to really seeing it for what it is. So you just kind of we try to justify their words. Like, I don't know, if they call you something bad, it's like, well, they're having a bad day. So we take the abuse and we put it off on other reasons instead of that was inappropriate. So the men that are in abusive relationships are a little bit more prone to disbelief and denial, maybe because of cultural pressure, the stigma about female abusive partners. But both men and women can experience these trauma bonds. And men tend to stay, based on some studies, more often than females do. So that might be due to societal pressures, had a household type thing. But they can, the social factors can kind of keep us into these relationships. And the cycle, it starts out as tensions will start to build. Our partner might start to show signs of anger, frustration, and that's when emotional, physical, or sexual abuse starts to occur. So we can reconcile after the abusive incident. A lot of times, that's when we get attention. The abuser partner abusive partner might apologize or try to justify their behavior, or cover it up or pass it off. And then we feel calm again. And the abusive person might make false promises, like it'll never happen again. But they're always going to go through those frustrations. And it's hard for them not to lash out, whether it's verbal, physical, sexual. And it's something to just be aware of. Sometimes, we kind of start thinking about the things that we love about the person. We think about how different the relationship is at different phases. And that can kind of keep us trapped. So there's also different personality styles. There's, it can get worse as time goes by. So just remember that, like, if you think that you can work through it, most often it gets worse, because narcissists BS you. They're not going to reflect. They're not really willing to change because it just doesn't work for them. Why change something that's working for them? Now there is some differences in personality disorders, schizoid, avoidant, whether dependent, borderline. And some of these manifest because of low self-esteem, a dependency, also submissiveness. And this is what your narcissist is going through there. It's not the case for everyone. Not everyone who loves somebody who's abusive has a mental health condition, but often there's some childhood trauma, and we might have an insecure or anxious attachment style. I was an anxious one, and that increases our chances of establishing and staying with somebody who is, a romantic partner who's abusive. I think, like, when I was growing up, I was always like, and I had good parents. But they're not all perfect. I'm not saying they're narcissistic, but they would promise me things that I would work for, and then that was taken away. And it was just like, I just spent all this time working to save up money or this or that. And just little things you can look back in your life, like, why am I like I am now? And I'm reflective on where my faults are, why I latch on. I take the time to get into a relationship, but once I'm in it and things start to go south, I want it fixed, because I see how it can be easily fixed. And then when you try to fix it, it makes it worse. And then you're like, oh crap, now I got to fix that. And I go through a lot of struggles that way. But the abusive partner uses those manipulation tactics, and now we're starting to feel uncertain. We're very confused. What do we do next? And we start getting really confused. So narcissists love psychological games, and that kind of, they trick us into falling in love with them. So we still feel this strong attachment. They sometimes can play the victim. And so as an empathetic person, we're wanting to make things better. So we're investing more. We're when you tap into your empathy, it kind of hurts your heart in a sense. Like, I can relate to that. And now we're becoming more vulnerable and closer, but we're not getting that back. And that's one thing that drains, where we should balance each other. So these narcissists start like gaslighting us or projecting their faults onto us. And now we're so confused of who we even are, what our feelings are. Are we angry, or do we love them so much that we're forgiving, or we're going through a cycle that's keeping our mind focused on them, which is keeping us not centering our lives in ourselves, but now it's centered on someone else. So our comfort is within somebody else. And that's why we start, grasping and the trauma. Like, yeah, everything about me was taken so I could focus on you. Whether it's our mind, putting all our effort onto them. So it's kind of like transferring our mind, our heart. And then we're panicking because they have us. They've taken us. And that's where how they steal from us. They stole our soul almost. And we gave it lovingly, but when we didn't get it back, um, it it drained us. And even just sometimes they start becoming unpredictable. So even the smallest little act of kindness is like refreshing, like, oh, finally some relief. But it also, these acts will seem bigger than they really are, because they occur so infrequently. Like if I gave you, I don't know, you haven't eaten in 6 weeks and I give you a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you are so thankful. And I'm the best cook in the world just because you're so hungry. But if you got that every day, you're like, is there nothing else you can make? This isn't very good and I'm sick of it. And, so we appreciate the smallest thing that they do. So the narcissist gets away with training us to expect less. They train us to come forward and forgive them because of the mind games that they play. And you go through that cognitive dissonance. Sometimes we're like, saying how they had, a rough childhood. And so we focus on how bad they might be feeling instead of what we feel. So we're the ones hurting and we're relating to what they felt when the issue is we're hurting. And that was in their childhood. And sometimes we just want to heal them. We feel we have all this love. This love is overflowing. And we keep thinking that it's going to change if we just love them unconditionally. And unfortunately, in human interactions, we need empathy and compassion. And we need that, especially when we're hurting. Otherwise, it starts to damage us. So change is possible. It's very difficult. Both parties need to change and both parties need to be capable of changing. And if people aren't able to do that, if I ask you to go for a walk with me, and you don't have any legs, you can't do it, no matter how much you want to. So the narcissist is missing part of their brain, and we want them to metaphorically go for a walk with us, make things better. There's some changes that they can make, but a full change is next to impossible. Sometimes professional help can help, but the narcissist doesn't like to take accountability. And they often will not go to counseling. They'll fake promise it. And if they do go to counseling, it, to be honest with you, is better if you go separately, because the narcissist will put everything on you. They'll often try to fool the therapist. So when you're there, they're going to try to make you look like the crazy one. And they are master manipulators. So now you're in therapy with your narcissist to make it better. And they're so good at blame shifting that you're not getting what you wanted, and you're getting even more frustrated with the outcome of the way the therapy is going. If they go alone, and the narcissist can be honest about what's going on, or the therapist can see through their lies, that would be helpful. But often when they go to therapy, they just want to tell you they went. So they'll want to get through it as quick as possible. So they'll try to put on the facade And they often, therapists have said a lot of times that they've been fooled, and then they're released from treatment and nothing gets better. Now the narcissist is resenting you for taking up their time, costing them money, as opposed to, taking the time that they are there, the money that they did spend, and value the relationship, value you, try to understand you. We're trying to understand them. Like right now, you have probably spent 30, 40, 50 hours listening to YouTube, and you're hurting. And a lot of the times we try to understand them, and they're not looking back at us. They're not like, man, I wonder why she's hurting, or I wonder how she's doing, or they just move on. And we're sitting here like feeling stranded. And when you feel stranded, you want to get out of feeling that way. It's hard to do. It's the trauma bond can be very painful, because we're starved, we're lost, we're stranded. But we got to build ourselves back up, because like I said, we had put it onto them, and we got to, like with everything in our power, just build ourselves back up. There's a little bit of you left there, because you want to find peace. And that's the first step, is figuring out what to do, where this trauma bond is coming from, and just start building yourself back up, because it is possible, but it takes effort, just like how you guys wanted to work through the relationship. We wanted effort to work through it. So right now, to get rid of your pain, it's going to take some effort. It's going to take getting out there, even when you don't want to, or getting up, or taking a shower, or starting a new craft, or playing the piano, just going for a walk. And I keep saying, sit outside on your porch if you don't want to go do anything. Just being out in the breeze or the sun, or what was helpful for me is, thank goodness it's starting to warm back up. What was so helpful for me is I went swimming at a lake. There's those, what are they called? County parks. And for just a few bucks, I don't know, it might have been $15 for the season. I had free swimming other than the $15 all summer long. And it felt so good, and nobody can see if you're crying if you're swimming. And maybe you can meet some people there, and sometimes you might build a connection, but you can at least say, hey, how you doing? And somebody, I don't know, maybe compliment you, like, oh, that's a cool towel, or just certain little things, or I like your bathing suit, I like your hair, whatever they would say. There's some human contact, especially after COVID, how we were on lockdown. We need that human interaction again. And please like and subscribe. I now have one-on-ones available if you guys would like to talk in person, over Zoom, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good day.